What's up, guys? We are back with another Mythic Legions All-Stars 4 review, taking a look at one of these skeletons that I have just needed for a very long time, so I'm really happy that he made the cut. We are taking a look today at TIBIUS, so I'm pretty much done with skeletons right now at this point, so this kind of like rounds out the one that I really needed to finish them all, so of course I'm happy just to get him. So we've of course got him here in standard Legion style packaging. Nothing new, nothing different here really. Figure there in the big window. You've got his affiliation call out on one side. We've got a bio card on the other. And then All-Stars 4 is getting the Arethyr backer card artwork on the backside. So you've got Arethyr there in all of his glory, the cross-sell for that wave, and then a write-up of Mythos as well. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our TIBIUS figure. So one of the final skeletons that I needed to really sort of round it all out when it comes to the few that I was missing. And this guy is pretty cool. So if you are interested in the skeletons for Mythic Legions, this is definitely a good place to start if he's on your list for All-Stars 4. But if you're also familiar with skeletons, you kind of already know what to expect with this guy for the most part, because he is very similar to just about every other 1.0 skeleton we've ever gotten. That's not a negative, though. It's just kind of the way it is. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. Again, if you're familiar with this type of figure, there's nothing new here, there's nothing different, but we're going to run through it for the uninitiated. So we've got a head that can look up really far, really good range. Not much down, slightly, but not super far. And then you've got rotation. The neck is independently articulated as well, so it does move with you. You do have to kind of watch it. Like sometimes it can get out of whack, and you'll have the neck backwards and maybe not realize it. We've got a little bit of tilt on that as well. Our arms go out at the shoulders, and then of course the shoulder armor or the arm armor will go up over the shoulder so it doesn't get in the way. It's kind of rubbery. They rotate. There is no bicep cut on this guy. You do have a single jointed rotating elbow though, which is pretty normal. And then you've got hinges at the wrist. They go in really far. And then you've got rotation as well. It's a 1.0 figure, so you've only got the ball jointed waist because it's a singular torso buck. So he goes backwards a little bit, forwards a good bit, tilt side to side slightly, and then it's also your point of rotation. Legs go out. You can get him to do the splits if you need to. You might want to warm him up. I didn't really need to do that. You are possibly going to see some paint rub in the joints because the joints are likely going to have at least some paint in there. They kick forward. I mean, he can do some high kicks really easily, all the way backwards as well. The skeletons, the 1.0 skeletons that have bare bones, do not have a thigh cut, so you're missing that. That's the one thing that's kind of different here. We've got our single jointed and rotating knee. And then you've got rotation at the ankles. You've got really good rocker down here. And then we've got really good hinge. So solid articulation from the knees down and really everywhere else. The only thing you're truly missing on this guy, and with pretty much any skeleton that fits this particular mold, is a thigh cut. Now, aesthetically, TIBIUS is not all that unique from a lot of other skeletons, which isn't, again, a negative for me. I do like the fact that many of them share a lot of the same thematic elements, I suppose, but he does have some really interesting things about him that make him stand out. Of course, he has a very specific color scheme, he's got a very specific belt piece, and he has a very unique look when it comes to his default head anyway. So he is, for all intents and purposes, a very normal skeleton, which is to say something that I'm a big fan of, because skeletons are, on any given day, still my favorite part of Mythic Legions, which is really interesting because normally it wouldn't be, but in this line they always are. So he has this sort of silver and a pewter color scheme when it comes to our torso buck, and then the armor that, again, one thing that I always love about skeletons that fit this mold is this weird armor on the arms that, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, essentially these are just riveted into their bones. That's basically what they are. There's no other way that they're attached. They've got to be just sort of nailed in there, which I think is fantastic. I do really like this construction for skeletons, the single torso buck, this particular sort of arm armor with all of that inlay detail with the two-tone colors. The paint on it is really solid, really clean and crisp. The bones do have a little bit of a wash on them to bring out some of the detail, so of course they are bone colored for this particular figure. You know, not all skeletons are bone color, and he does have a little bit of a wash to bring out some of that detail, but it's just, again, a very standard mix of parts for the most part, but it's all about the bone combination with this color scheme that makes him stand out and kind of makes him a little bit attractive to me. We do get some of the very normal knight style boots down here, which are a little bit different from the rest of the armor because you've got all this sort of inlay pewter color, grayish color on the sort of filigree detail, but here it's a very rust and patina, so it's very brown orangey over top of that silver, which I do like. It makes for a little bit of a change up. And then one thing that's really cool about this guy is the actual belt piece that he has these two sort of sheaths, loops, whatever you want to call them, for his dual swords. So that's not necessarily a very common thing to see. So it is something that makes him stand out a little bit while still very much being the same kind of character or construction that we see when it comes to a lot of skeletons from this era of Mythic Legions. And then we get, of course, the gorget up here at the top. You can take that off if you don't want to use it. I always use them, so it's always going to be there for me. And then, of course, he is crowned off with what I think is one of the most striking skeleton head sculpts in the line because of the red stripes that run across the entirety of the skull. So they start in the back and they go all the way down across the eye sockets and down to the lower jaw. So despite the fact that he has, again, just sort of a bone colored head, and this is not a very specific head sculpt, I mean, we've seen this before, it's this particular sort of splash of color that makes him stand out. It makes him different, and it just makes him look a little bit more menacing. And that kind of plays along with the bio that they gave him about him being a very fierce warrior and you know, of a very singular mindset when it comes to battle. So I do really like that, and that paint job up there is also really clean. The line work is very solid, very crisp, no bleeding, no blurry lines or anything like that. So he is very simple and very normal when it comes to a lot of the construction as far as skeletons goes, but the color scheme, the head, and then of course the extra little loops on the belt make him stand out and make him different enough that he's just an exciting addition to, I don't want to say that race, but that faction, that grouping, that kind of character. Now, as far as accessories goes, TIBIUS actually has quite a bit. For a 1.0 figure, he has a lot. And it really plays up with some of what's going on with this belt in particular. It's utilized, essentially. Of course, there are things to change up this figure, though, so we have to talk about those first. He comes with some pretty standard pauldrons. They very much fit this style of armor, so it's the same kind of inlay X pattern that runs through all the armor on the upper half of the figure, in the torso, in the torso, the arms, and then in the crotch piece. So you've got that for his pauldrons. So pretty standard kind of knight style pauldrons. And he has soft goods. I'll say they're not the softest soft goods, though. So he has a very unique cape, and it is kind of like this tattered, just sort of frayed, well, it's severely frayed soft goods cape here. And it's kind of weird. It works decently enough, but at the same time, I don't know that I'm actually going to use it because the material is just, it's just not that great, honestly. And it's something that a lot of legions have kind of suffered in the soft goods area for a long time. They're okay, is really where it comes down to. They're okay, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And I know we're going to get to that point eventually with some of the upcoming waves. I just kind of wish that they had gone backwards and maybe re-engineered some of this stuff. So this looks okay. It's kind of haphazard. I like the idea. I may play around with it a little bit more and see how I can better manipulate this and maybe kind of soften it up, because it's really coarse. It's really coarse and very, I don't know, like crispy almost is the best way to describe it. Like, it really doesn't want to bend and move. It just wants to sort of sit how it wants to sit. Of course, it's not wired or anything like that, but I think it does get kind of the point across of him being, you know, kind of like a skeletal general or something. So it does make him look a little bit more important, and I do like that. He also comes with an extra head sculpt. So we're going to pop this one off here. Well, we're going to take the neck off because that's just pretty much how it always works for me. And we'll pop that off. And we'll put our neck back on. And he does come with an extra head sculpt. So we get this other head, which does not have the markings. And this is the one with the articulated jaw. So you can sort of move this jaw up and down a little bit if you don't want him to have, you know, the markings to make him look a little bit more unique. like this does, you can put this on him and maybe he can just be a standard skeleton with different kind of armor. So something a little more silver instead of the darker gray that the Legion builder has. And then he, of course, has some weapons. So this, of course, is what I was talking about, where it plays up the idea of these loops. So he's got 2 swords. So you can put them through here, and he can sort of store his weapons on him at any given time. So you've got 2 of the same sword. They just have different hilt colors, basically. So this is a black hilt with silver handle. This is a silver hilt with a red handle. But they can both fit in these sheaths on his belt, and you can keep them on him at any time. And then he's also got 2 knives, which basically play up the same kind of thing. So if you want him to be a knife wielder, gold and black, or silver and red. And then he also has one of the ever-present straps. I did not get any back adapters with this guy. I can't remember if I should or shouldn't, but the pile of 1,000 that I still have really makes it irrelevant. So he does have a lot of stuff. I mean, head, pauldrons, cape, 2 daggers, 2 swords, and, this guy, the sheath, or the strap. There's a lot in this package, especially for a 1.0 figure. So, yeah, I mean, a really solid figure, honestly. That said, let me preface all that by saying I'm very partial to skeletons in this line. I've wanted this guy for a very long time as well, but I was never prepared to even want to try to pay aftermarket prices for him because they had just gotten so ridiculous for a very long time. So I'm glad that he made the cut when it came to this All-Stars 4 wave. But even so, he's really good. If you're into skeletons, this is definitely one to pick up if you're missing him. But he also makes for a really good Legion builder because he's got that very standard skeleton style look, just in a different color scheme, and he has a very generic head as that second head sculpt. Plus, even if, like me, you maybe aren't the biggest fan of the soft goods for this figure, you still have a way to change him up, make him really different. He's got 4 weapons in the box, and frankly, there's just a lot of stuff with this guy. Especially for a 1.0 figure, he is very, very stacked, and you can't go wrong with skeletons in Mythic Legions. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legions All-Stars for TIBIUS. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.